Today we are counting down the top 10 red tarantulas in the hobby, so keep watching. Welcome to the Tarantula Collective. My name is Richard, and if this is your first time, I make videos on tarantulas, scorpions, and other invertebrates. If you've been following my channel, you know I just recently went full-time as a content creator. And to help pay the bills, occasionally some videos will have a paid sponsor. But I will never have a video sponsored by a business that I don't use or I would not recommend myself. I will only allow sponsors that I know and trust, like the sponsor for today's video, Micro Wilderness. They're an online invert dealer based out of California that will ship tarantulas to your door overnight anywhere in the United States. They have a wide selection of New World, Old World, fossorial, terrestrial, and arboreal tarantulas, from spiderlings to adults, as well as some true spiders, scorpions, and even leopard geckos. They have a great live arrival guarantee so you can order with confidence, and they have a VIP program where you can earn points to receive discounts on future purchases. In fact, some of the species on today's list actually came from Micro Wilderness. So check them out at microwilderness.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram to stay in the loop. And for a limited time, if you use the code TTC10 at checkout, you will receive 10% off your order. So thank you, Micro Wilderness, for helping support this channel. Now let's get to the list. So as I mentioned, we're counting down the top 10 red tarantulas in the hobby today. It was kind of supposed to be like a Valentine's Day special, but I missed that by a few days. Some of these tarantulas are more orange than red, or even more pink than red, and some just kind of have red in their common name. And this isn't any kind of scientific, analytical list. This is just my opinions on the tarantulas that I have here in my collection, for the most part. So let's jump right in with number 10, the Megaphobema robustum. Known as the Colombian giant red-legged tarantula, this species has a span of 6 to 8 inches. Found in the tropical rainforest of Colombia and Brazil, this is a shy tarantula, spending most of its time hidden in its burrow as a spiderling and juvenile. But once it approaches its adult size, you can find it out of its hide more often, though it can be a little defensive and kick a lot of hairs. This tarantula can grow up to 7.5 to 8 inches in leg span, with red legs, black carapace, and a black abdomen covered with reddish-orangish hairs. This is definitely one cool red tarantula. Personally, right now, I do not have this species in my collection, though I did have one years ago. I am hoping to add one in the near future. Now, this next species is classic. Number 9 is the Brachypelma auratum. Commonly referred to as the Mexican flame-knee tarantula, this is an example of a truly stunning species of tarantula. Found mainly in the savannas and scrublands of central Mexico, this is a New World terrestrial spider that can grow up to over 5 inches in leg span and live for over 25 years. This is a very hardy tarantula and makes for a great pet, and is probably one of my favorite species in the genus. I'll be honest with you, this next tarantula is more black than red, but it does have red in its common name. So the number 8 tarantula on this list is the Tilicotta vagans. The Mexican red-rump tarantula is one of the most common species found in the hobby. This mostly black tarantula made the list because of the bright red setae on their abdomen. With their deep velvety black color, the red hairs are truly accentuated, making this a gorgeous species, even if it is common. My adult female is among one of the most defensive species in my collection and is always quick to kick hairs, give a threat pose, or even slap the ground when disturbed. Though most people report their red rumps are mostly docile and show no signs of defensive behavior. Native to the Yucatan Peninsula, it has also been observed in Belize, El Salvador, Guatemala, and northeastern Costa Rica. Most recently, the Mexican red rump has been discovered in a citrus grove outside of Fort Pierce, Florida. It is assumed that this species was introduced into the area, either intentionally or accidentally, by a gravid female escaping or being released into the area and laying an egg sac. This species has existed in the area since at least 1986 and has thrived, as the environment in this area is similar to the Yucatan Peninsula, where this tarantula is originally from. Hopefully for your sake, your Mexican red rump is a lot more docile than mine. I caught a lot of heat for adding it to my top 10 most defensive tarantula list last year, but I stand by that. Mine is still a cranky girl, and I'm actually going to be pairing her very soon, so we'll see how that breeding goes. Now, number 7 is arguably the most well-known tarantula on this list, and that is the Brachypelma hamorii. Formerly classified as the Brachypelma smithii, known commonly as the Mexican red-kneed tarantula, this is one of the most popular tarantulas in the hobby. When most people think of a tarantula, this is the species that comes to mind. Made famous by being used in movies like Indiana Jones and the William Shatner movie Kingdom of the Spiders, this species was also showcased in many TV series, like in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Endemic to Mexico, they can be found mainly along the western coast south of Guadalajara, in the drier savannas and scrublands. With the alternating black and reddish-orange patterns on their legs, this is one seriously awesome-looking tarantula. Coming in at number 6 is a tarantula that I almost didn't include on the list, but its common name really kind of lends itself to a red tarantula list. I'm sure some people will disagree with it. But nonetheless, number 6 is the Grammostola rosea. The rosehair tarantula, or the Chilean rosehair tarantula, has more of a pink hue, but it is close enough to red to make this list. You can also find these tarantulas under the common names Chilean fire tarantula, Chilean red-haired tarantula, and rosea. This used to be the most common tarantula in the hobby and could usually be found in pet stores around the world. They come from the scrublands of Chile, Bolivia, and Argentina. Part of the reason they were so common in the hobby was because wild-caught specimens were cheaply exported from Chile. Rosehairs are often a grayish-brown with a pinkish hue across the top of their head. These tarantulas grow very slowly until they reach about 5 inches diagonal leg span, sometimes a little bit larger. The rosehair has become so popular because of its long life expectancy and incredible hardiness, and was actually not just my first tarantula, but my second tarantula as well. Now this next tarantula is a species that a lot of you all have been asking me to do a care and husbandry video on. And don't worry, I'll be releasing a species-specific video on this tarantula in the very near future. But for now, number 5 is the Brachypelma emilia. Known as the Mexican red-legged tarantula, it is obvious how it can be confused with other Brachypelma species, as its common name is very similar and they're often mislabeled. But the B. emilia has a unique black triangle on its carapace that really distinguishes it from other tarantulas like the B. hamorii. Originally described by White in 1856, it is considered the most northerly species of Brachypelma tarantula and is found in western Mexico, primarily to the west of the Sierra Madres Occidental mountain range. Sometimes also referred to as the Mexican painted tarantula, this species is very hardy and easy to take care of. Mine will occasionally kick hairs when I disturb it, but it is mostly docile and one of my favorite tarantulas to photograph. Man, I love that species, but this next tarantula is even cooler. Number 4 is the Homoioma chilensis. Formerly Euthyllus species red, this is one of the most sought after yet difficult to find tarantulas in the hobby, partly due to the fact that they live long and grow slow. But they are also a dwarf species that does not produce near the numbers of eggs in a sac like some larger New World terrestrial tarantulas do. This species is well known for being one of the most docile and curious tarantulas in the hobby, regularly strolling out of their enclosure to look around and even calmly walking onto your hands and allowing you to handle them. This tarantula does not grow any larger than a 3-inch leg span and are mostly black with a grayish setae and a bright red flame of color on the top of their abdomen, giving them their common name. Though there isn't a lot of red, that red spot is so bright and contrasted against their black abdomen that they had to be included on this list. They have a sweet and charming demeanor, they're easy to care for, and an all-around great species. You can't go wrong with this tarantula, if you can find one. Now this next tarantula, I actually have a species-specific care video on that I'll link above, and they're one of my favorite species that I have in my collection. So the number 3 red tarantula on this list is the Aphonopelma bicoloaratum. The Mexican bloodleg or Mexican beauty tarantula is very often mistaken for another tarantula on this list, as it has a similar appearance. Commonly found in the scrublands and desert areas of southwestern Mexico along the Pacific side of the country, they grow to a max size of about 5 inches and can live as long as 25 years. Though they are slow growing, they are a very docile species. This tarantula does not web up its enclosure very much, but as they get larger, they will lay some web along the top of the substrate that they use to sense where any prey might be in their vicinity. As a spiderling, mine spend most of their time hidden deep in their burrow, but once they are large juveniles or young adults, you will see them out in the open most of the time, making them a very colorful display tarantula. Keep watching if you want to see what tarantula this species is commonly mistaken for, because it's coming up very soon. By the way, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. Now, the number 2 tarantula on this list is another species that I personally do not have, but it is a very cool tarantula. And maybe if I had one in my collection and could get some really cool video of it, it would have made number 1. But for now, it will have to settle for the number 2 spot on this list, and that is the Theraphosinized species Panama. This unique-looking species comes from Panama and is commonly referred to as the lava spider due to its bright red coloration. They are a little skittish but not defensive and can bolt very quickly. Growing to around 4 inches in leg span, they are a little too large to be considered a dwarf species, but they are definitely on the smaller side. Personally, I've been looking to add this species to my collection for a few years, but anytime I hear about someone having them for sale, they are sold out by the time I get there with money in hand. So if you have one in your collection, consider yourself very lucky. And if you see one for sale, snatch it up before you miss your chance. And I have a little bit of a resentment towards them since I haven't been able to get one yet. So now it's time for the number 1 red tarantula. And don't forget, if you're enjoying these videos, feel free to share them with your friends. Help me get the word out about the channel. And while you're doing that, don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you're alerted anytime I upload new videos in the future. I'm uploading twice a week now on Tuesdays and Fridays, so there's going to be a lot more content than you're probably used to. So the number 1 tarantula on this list is a species that I have a love-hate relationship with. I love watching it crawl around its enclosure. I really enjoy photographing it, but I really hate its urticating hairs. And it always seems to kick them at me, and they itch more than almost any species of tarantula in my collection. The number 1 red tarantula on my list is the boehmei. Commonly known as the Mexican fireleg, this is a New World terrestrial tarantula known for its black abdomen and bright red or orange legs. It is very similar to the Brachypelma hamorii and smithy, but with a different pattern on its legs and grows a little bit larger in size. It is also very similar in appearance to the Aphonopelma bicoloaratum mentioned earlier in this list. The boehmei hails from Mexico and Central America and is known to be found along the Pacific coast in the Guerrero state and lives mainly in the dry scrublands. They make for an amazing display tarantula as they spend a lot of time out of their burrow and have bright colors that contrast nicely and are sure to catch people's eye and adoration. But a quick warning, I do not recommend handling this species as they are quick to flee and to kick hairs. In fact, when filming this video, my girl was kind enough to kick a lot of hair at me when I removed her from her enclosure, and my skin is still itching right now, despite the urticating hairs. This is one of my favorite display tarantulas in my collection, and in my opinion, is well deserving of the number 1 spot on this list. If nothing else, this list demonstrates the confusion that can be caused by only using common names to refer to your tarantulas. I am no elitist that demands only scientific names be used, but just on this list, you can see how similar some of the common names are to describe tarantulas that already appear or look very similar. And some of the common names are used for multiple species, some even in different genuses. Now, this may not be an issue if you're looking at a full-grown adult tarantula, but buying a spiderling knowing only its common name could mean it could take you years for that spiderling to grow to an adult size that you would be able to see its adult patterns and coloration and know exactly which genus and species it is that you have. Now, if there are any red tarantulas that I left off my list, be sure to let me know about it down below in the comments, because I am sure that I overlooked some amazing species. And if you want to see all my top 10 videos, I've got you covered. Just click this playlist right here. And if you want to see species-specific videos on some of the tarantulas on this list, just click this playlist right here. As always, I appreciate you watching. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for buying Tarantula Collective merchandise, and I will see you next Tuesday.